For years now, there's always been the view that the BBC's weather is more accurate than ITV, and it absolutely isn't.
Good evening to you.
We used to use symbols which are just representative of the weather forecast. Now we're seeing weather hour by hour. It's a great tool for the presenters to tell the story. There are weather suppliers across the globe and all desperate to work in the UK, so we kick-started a tender. I went to Berlin with Les Halliday. We were actually delayed because of the weather. Dense fog meant our flight couldn't take off at Gatwick. We chose to partner with the Met Office again. We've got a fantastic relationship with them, a long-standing relationship that mattered.
And today I'm going to be revealing for the first time the new ITV weather graphic.
The changes were across Good Morning Britain, ITV National News and Regional News, so we had to deploy systems across all of our sites, and we had 40 delegates trained up in 2 weeks, which was quite, again, a task to organise. More features, more functionality, webcams at the desk so the presenters can talk to viewers. There's more social media tools that we'd like to start using, so this is very much the start.
A fair bit of pressure because you've got this northerly breeze, which is
I always smile when we are at the ITV News Awards, when so many of our top stories are weather stories. Even on a quiet day, people just want to know, do I put my washing out, you know? We've had some funny stories about people tuning into the weather just to find out whether they need to straighten their hair or not. Will it go frizzy if there's going to be some drizzle?
It's gone incredibly quickly. The news agenda's just been crazy, as everybody knows. I think one of the interesting things about the night was, and the things that we got a lot of credit for, was calling it and being able to call it early, and we were able to do this by this probability system.
And we have decided to push that up a bit, and at this point in the evening we think there is an 80% probability of a leave win.
And actually it was Alison Mackenzie in Central who was the one who tipped us into actually calling it.
Yes, I've just had a whisper from a senior member of the Vote Leave campaign. They're calling it by some 3,000 votes in their favour. That was not expected here at Birmingham.
CNN took us live, our tweets went global. It was amazing, the pick-up on it. And then obviously that enabled us to get really good write-ups in the papers on the days after.
So watching this incredible story develop, but many are now waking up.
I think for me, this whole referendum was about people. On our screen we had a graphic with a tally on it, and on that tally, if you'd voted, you'd be on there, you'd be one of those numbers, and that really mattered to me.
Who'd have thought just a few weeks ago we'd have been talking about Prime Minister May?
2 weeks later, I was doing the Theresa May programme when Cameron stepped down and Theresa May became Prime Minister, so that was an open-ended programme again. And then now back on News at 10, so it's felt a bit more like a kind of back to the daily grindstone. Probably shouldn't say that, but yeah.
We're coming under sniper fire and firing back.
We had a really amazing programme a couple of weeks ago when John Irvine was attacked by suicide bombers.
That is the third suicide car bomb attack that we've seen this morning.
And we also had Dan Rivers in Aleppo, eastern Aleppo on the border.
We were forced to run for cover as rebel sniper fire sent soldiers and onlookers scattering for their lives. Minutes after we left, a mortar landed just yards from where we'd been standing.
Both journalists put their lives on the line that day for us, and there was a big pressure to make sure that the programme was right.
Only it wasn't the end of the day.
And I think of all the programmes I've done this year, that's the one I'm most proud of.
So it's actually my ITV 6 months really, because I started in May. The idea was to try and create a sub-identity for the programme, which is where sort of GMB Investigates came from. With investigations, number one, you never know whether you'll pull any off, let alone a lot. We kicked off with a nice simple one, which was just live streaming whilst driving.
In one of his broadcasts, we monitored him as he looked away from the road an alarming number of times.
A gawp at people behaving badly, but there was a more serious point. There was another man that we timed that had looked at the road once in a minute. The rest of the time he was staring at his phone. I'm sort of, can't say a TV whore, but I've worked for a lot of TV organisations, and what was interesting about this job was the sense of freedom I was given. We're not a quiet team, quite a loud team, and we're known for it, but we do have, I wouldn't say blazing rows, but we have heated debates about, is this a story? Is it important to viewers? Is it going to have any effect? Working on the assumption that Ofcom's going to investigate you, working on the assumption that you're going to get a complaint. And you've got to have that armour of kind of diligence and attention to detail to survive that, because those hits come throughout an investigation as it's going on.
Fake profile, this one here, of a 13-year-old girl on Tinder.
Hours after that, Tinder announced that they were going to shut that section of the app. That's 1.5 million kids. Obviously, we had to rush the story out. Thank God for the armour.
So we did some digging around.
We looked at revenge porn cases amongst children. The youngest case we had was 8 years old. And we had Maria Miller on the sofa, and her reaction to our findings, well...
I think what you've uncovered here is a scale of child abuse which is shocking.
That was raised in Parliament.
Well, one early years worker claimed that children were being left...
Our reporter was only asked 2 questions before she was allowed to work with children. One of those questions was, is your boyfriend a paedophile? No. OK, that's fine.
Right, so how many children have we got?
Even though we've managed to do all those investigations, we've also done fun stuff.
What did she do?
It's a bit Bridget Jones, but viewers really responded well to it.
I don't want to let go.
Honestly, you're going to have to.
I don't want to let go.
And actually, at the end, when she's going off the edge, there was a boost in figures.
So here I go, guys.
Viewers like a little bit of danger and risk. I'm not sure Laura did. Thank you, Laura, for doing it. And she still speaks to me as well, so that's something.